93 years ago, one of the greatest icons of the pre-modern era, a legend amongst legends, was captured, put under trial, and executed. This person has a title. He was called Asad al-Sahra, the lion of the desert. And I mean, of course, none other than Omar Al-Mukhtar of Libya. But to talk about him briefly, I have to take just one step back and discuss what are the Italians doing in Libya. The Italians colonized Libya. Very briefly, as you're aware, France colonized Algeria in the 1840s, and eventually they also colonized Morocco. And when France started getting involved in the Arab world, England felt left out. So England then invaded, and England took over Egypt. So the Italians say, it's not fair, we want our piece of the pie as well. And so the Italians, they already had Eritrea, they already had Ethiopia on the west coast, but they wanted something on the same side as the other superpowers that has direct access to the Mediterranean. And so the Italians reached out to the British and the French, and they said, we're going to take Libya, we're going to arrange a deal. So they literally made a secret treaty. The Italians made a treaty with the French and the British that we're going to take over this land. At this time, of course, Libya is under the Ottoman Empire, and Libya is an outpost which is surrounded by colonizers. Imagine, on the one hand you have France, on the other hand you have England, and Libya is all by itself there. And so the Ottoman Empire is already weak in Libya. So the Italians decide they're going to use a tactic. They start with treaties with the Libyans. They start building ports for the Libyans. They start making economic treaties. They start sending merchants. They start sending people to live in Libya with legal citizenship, legal visas and whatnot. And then they complain to the Ottoman Empire that our citizens are being harassed. Our citizens aren't being treated fairly. They sent an envoy to the Khalifa, to the Sultan of the Ottomans, that unless you rectify the situation of the Italians in Libya, we will take drastic action. And the Ottoman Sultan said, what is wrong with you guys? Libya is safe, everything is safe here. And the Ottoman Sultan did not understand what's going on. What do you mean everything is fine? It's a safe country. But the Italians said, unless you protect our citizens, there shall be drastic measures. And so in September of 1911, Italy declared war against the Ottoman Empire. And they sent in the naval fleets to capture Libya. And of course, the Ottomans did not have the weaponry. They did not have the manpower. Libya already was at the very fringe of the Ottoman Empire, and the Ottomans were already dealing with a lot of internal issues. They couldn't put up the defense. So within a day, the Italians invaded and took over all of the coastal towns, all of Tripoli. So obviously the Ottomans then, they had to just acquiesce and agree. They were forced to sign a treaty, and a year later, officially, the Ottoman Empire basically said, okay, we can't fight you guys, take it. So Libya was officially handed over in 1912 to the Italians. However, they didn't have control over the people. The people don't want the Italians there. And the coastal towns were taken by force. But how about the internal cities? How about the valleys? How about the entire provinces inside? And this is where our figure, Omar Al-Mukhtar, comes into play. Because even though the Italians were able to by force take over all of the coastal cities, the inside towns, the inside villages, they kept on putting up fights. And they decided to elect amongst themselves an emir, and that emir was Omar Al-Mukhtar. How could they unanimously agree, this is going to be our leader? Omar Al-Mukhtar was born in 1862 to a very prominent scholarly family, and his father and grandfather were shuyukh of the local place. He went to study Islam as a child, and he got involved with the Sanusi order. The Sanusi order is one of the famous Sufi tariqas of the time frame. His sheikh initiated him into the order. He rose up in the tariqah. His sheikh sent him to study in neighboring lands as a young man, and a lot of people don't know this, but he was studying, I believe it was in Chad or Senegal, in his 20s. He was studying there, and the French invaded. As a young man studying in another land, he got involved in fighting for the Muslims against the French. And it was at that age and stage where the people saw in him bravery and dignity and courage, and they gave him the title Asad al-Sahra, the lion of the desert. This title was given to him not in Libya, it was given to him as a young man when he was fighting against the French. The French eventually won, so Omar Al-Mukhtar had to withdraw back to his country of Libya, and there for the next 20 years, at that time of course the Italians hadn't come, so he teach the people. He became a Quran teacher, he became a sheikh, he became a person of ilm and knowledge, and the whole area that he used to live in, one of the provinces of Libya, he was the most famous sheikh of that vicinity. Omar Al-Mukhtar was now in his late 50s, early 60s. And when the Italians invaded, the people went to him and they elected him to be their representative to fight against the Italians. So this was when an all-out offensive began that lasted more than 2 decades. Omar Al-Mukhtar began fighting the Italians, but how are you going to fight a superpower when you don't have have the weaponry, when they are 10 times your number. So Umar Al-Mukhtar began doing guerrilla warfare tactics. What is guerrilla warfare? Guerrilla warfare is you cut off the supply lines. Guerrilla warfare is you attack at night, the warriors and the soldiers over there. It is employing tactics where your small quantity comes into effect. Also, because Umar Al-Mukhtar knew the land, he understood the best mechanisms to attack, the best lay of the land to use, and the Italian soldiers could not compete with that level of tactics. And this is why he wreaked havoc in Italian lines. His name became famous in Italy. He became a household name across the world, even though he was in the desert fighting the Italian forces. You have to realize here, the Libyan government officially is now pro-Italian. The people that are there, in Tripoli and whatnot, the Libyans have agreed, and Umar Al-Mukhtar is not agreeing with his own people. Umar Al-Mukhtar has gone against the people that have sold Libya to the Italians. So negotiations are taking place, and one of his own people asked him, like, why are you fighting? You're not going to win. And he gave a famous answer. He said, I will fight as long as I can, and I will die. And if I die, I will leave behind others who will fight. For me, there is no such thing as surrender. I either win or I die. I will not live a coward and a slave to the Italians. There's only two options for me. Either I live with dignity or I die at the hands of these people. I'm never going to acquiesce and surrender to these people. So his people took courage, they took shelter under him, and he continued this war for over 20 years. In response, the Italians increased the pressure. And in Italy, one of the worst fascist dictators of human history, and that is of course Mussolini. Mussolini comes into power. So Mussolini comes into power when Umar Al-Mukhtar is waging war against the Italians. And Mussolini gives the green light to his general. His general is Rodolfo Graziani. Graziani is a household name in Italy. Everybody hates him. He is one of the worst generals of humanity because zero compassion. And of course Mussolini tells him, do as you please. So Graziani employed what is called a scorched earth policy. Scorched earth policy means no mercy. We will not take any prisoners. Everybody will die that comes across us. We will kill men, women, and children. We will kill animals. We will scorch the earth. We will get rid of the trees. We will make the land uninhabitable. This is the scorched earth policy. And to give you one simple example, the statistics indicate that before the war began, there were over 1 million goats and sheep in Libya. When Graziani starts his scorched earth policy, 90,000 are left. In other words, 92% of the animals are killed. What do you think of the people? He's killing the animals on purpose so that people cannot eat, people cannot live, sustain. And Graziani started concentration camps for the first time in that region. And hundreds of thousands of people were housed there with poor water, no sanitation, no medicine. They estimated over 40% of the people in these concentration camps died. Because why? They didn't have food, they didn't have water, they didn't have medicine, cholera, typhoid, all types of diseases. There are pictures of these concentration camps. We're talking about 1930, 1931, 1932. There are pictures, there's video footage. But why is it none of our high school kids sees that video footage? Why is it nobody even knows there were concentration camps in Libya under the Italians? Teach all of history, but selective memory, it has an agenda behind it. So the Italians massacred hundreds of thousands of Libyans. Zero mercy, as we said. Women, children, animals are killed. Every city would have mutilated bodies. They would burn it and desecrate and put those bodies there so that people do not join Umar Al-Mukhtar's camps. So they continued to do so until finally in 1931, they set up an ambush and they managed to capture Umar Al-Mukhtar in September of 1931. They captured in an infamous battle called the Battle of Green Mountains in the area of Burqa. And because they didn't want any chance of escape or any media propaganda, within 2 days, the sham trial, literally it was a media circus. All the media was there. They paraded Umar Al-Mukhtar around everywhere. And then within 2 days, they just decided to execute him. And in the trial, all of the reporters, they remarked that the persona of Umar Al-Mukhtar exuded dignity and nobility. He never once indicated any fear. There was coming from him courage and dignity, even as he's in his shackles. And the Italian reporters are remarking about this. There's so many pictures, of this trial as well. Even the reporters were impressed. And the judge asked him, do you not have any regrets? And he answered calmly that I have no regrets. I am not the criminal. You are the criminals here. I have done nothing wrong. I defended my land. I defended my people. I defended my religion. I have done nothing wrong. You are the criminals that have come and invaded my land here. And the way he responded with that courage and dignity, it shook even the reporters and the people in the room there. And the generals and the military leaders, even though they hated him, they also wanted to pose with pictures with him because they admired him. They hated him empire at the same time, because there is that notion of a noble enemy. So even though they wanted to kill him, there are pictures of the generals that are posing with Omar Al-Mukhtar because they want to have the honor that, oh, I'm standing next to Omar Al-Mukhtar. And of course, we're all aware that even as he was sentenced and he was walking to be hanged, there was not even an ounce of fear. And this is what impressed everybody. There was not any ounce of cowardice or fear. He was reciting his usual wird and Quran, and he stood on the gallows that he was going to be hanged by, and he said the kalima in a calm and dignified voice, and he met his end 93 years ago, and inshallah ta'ala he died the death of a shaheed. And so with his death, the resistance had to come to an end. There was no figure to replace him. Can you imagine the respect that he had, that when they got rid of him, the resistance fizzled out. The Italians officially took over the entire country. They changed the name of the country and they called it Italian Libya. The Italian Libya country lasts until World War II. It was only World War II because Mussolini sided with Hitler, and of course Hitler lost in World War II. Because Hitler lost, Italy lost. Because Italy lost, it lost Libya. SubhanAllah, look at how it happened here. Perhaps bittersweet. Victory is not promised in this dunya. Omar Al-Mukhtar did not gain political victory, but that is not the ultimate victory. The ultimate victory is first and foremost in the eyes of Allah, and then in the qulub of the mu'mineen. And if you look at it that way, without a doubt, Omar Al-Mukhtar is the victor. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant Omar Al-Mukhtar the highest place of Firdaus al-A'la.